We're going to go over some of the most important thing for you to do. If you've already created a Zoom account, you should have an email that says you want your account to be joined to the Carmel Unified School District. We just on Monday got access for this ability, and so we want everyone to approve this request as soon as possible. All you got to do is click the button. It's going to take you to the Zoom website. You're going to agree, and then you're all set. What that means then is that you will have the default settings that we recommend for protecting yourself and for most effective teaching online. You will have the ability to change some of those settings, but you'll have to go in and actually make that change and know that you actually want a different feature than the default. The most important thing right now is to click this approve the request. If you've never created a Zoom account right now, going forward, when you create a Zoom account, it'll have the default settings of our district. So now that the district has an official Zoom account, we've set up some default settings for Zoom meetings. Some of these you can change if you know you want that functionality, but the default will protect you against some of the problems that have been going on with misuse of Zoom, what they call Zoom bombing. So let me just go through some of the settings right now and explain when you might want to change them and why some of them are set that way. So the first thing is that we've added a password required for all new meetings. If you've already set some meetings, you might need to go back into the Google Calendar event and just make sure that the link for attendees has a password listed. So that just adds another layer of protection that a password has to be typed in by a person instead of maybe some of these automatic bots trying to get into Zoom meetings for hackers. The other thing is that essentially all people will enter muted and will enter with their video off, and that prevents a surprise from happening right away. People join a meeting. The chat is available, but private chat is off by default, so students can't send chat messages to each other without being seen by everyone in the room. It's possible you may want to turn that on, but be aware of that kids could then be chatting and essentially passing notes while you're having the meeting. The other important ones are under screen sharing, and here's the really key one here. By default right now, only the meeting host, the teacher, can share their screen. So that's good because it prevents a student from grabbing control of the meeting and showing what's on their screen, or a hacker from doing that. However, if you're working with your colleagues, you may want to be sharing screens back and forth. And so you can go and when you make the meeting, go ahead and change that to all participants if that's what you want. But in general, when working with groups of students, you're the only one who would ever want to share their screen. Same thing with the whiteboard. The whiteboard is now off by default. You may want to use it, but it's a tool that can be abused by students or hackers to disrupt a meeting. So remove participants can't rejoin. So if you kick someone out, they're out. That's the default setting. Participants cannot rename themselves. That's now the default setting. The breakout room is on by default. That's a useful tool when you're working with kids, so we turn that on by default. And then the other important one is the waiting room. The waiting room is now on by default for all Zoom accounts. And what that means is that before someone joins your meeting, you'll get an alert at the bottom of the Zoom meeting saying, there's people in the waiting room. So here you can see what the waiting room looks like. You can see that someone has entered the waiting room and is waiting to go in. I can click See Waiting Room, and then I can determine, do I know who this person is? And if I do, I admit them. If not, I don't admit them or remove them. I could also message the waiting room and say, if this is Tim, please log in and then join. And then I know that they're going to be signed in to their Google account, so I know who they are. So that's how you use the waiting room. If you just admit people, then it doesn't really protect you. So make sure that you're actually checking the waiting room before you add students. We're going to explore the ability to prevent anyone outside of our district from joining our Zooms. It's going to take a little testing so we don't lock everything up right now. But if that's successful, then they'll add another layer where students have to be logged into their CUSD.me account and teachers have to be logged into their CarmelUnified.org account to join our meetings. So that's a quick overview. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me and we can go over them. All right, thanks a lot.